Hello, Mech fans. This is Duncan Fisher. Hold on firmly to your mana potions, fireballs, and familiars, because you are tuning in to your regularly scheduled episode of the First Circuit Podcast.
And with that, hello and welcome everyone to the First Circuit Podcast, episode number 89. Your hosts today include Bida.
Hey doll, derry doll, ding-a-dong dillo.
Sure, let's go with that. Old Bob.
My god, I need a saying now.
Myself, IanDresarie, who's just here and is not going to say anything stupid. And today we've got a special guest. Say hi to the audience, Bombadil.
Hey gentlemen, and hey everybody out there, good to be here.
Thank you for being here. Our topics today include, well, obviously we've got a guest, so we're gonna go over some stuff with the No Gods No Galaxy, their history, their recent podcast, which sparked a lot of interest among the community, and their thoughts on the future of MechWarrior Online. Beyond that, we've got some of the regular topics, like the new event, sale, a couple new mechs, and hotfix.
I'd like to point out and acknowledge that episode 89. First of all, congratulations. That's a lot of episodes. You're almost at the 100 mark. But also 89 was my football number for 4 years in high school. So like that's kind of cool, isn't it?
Oh, that's wow.
It was meant to be.
It was meant to be. Yes.
89 is a special number for me. So thank you guys. I appreciate you setting that up and doing it on purpose.
Well, obviously, totally imperfect.
It was all on purpose.
Yeah, and since we were talking about the history, let's do a quick introduction. Bombadil,
Sure.
Who are you?
I don't know. I ask myself that every single day. Who the hell am I? I'm a lucky community member, man, that scored like 10 years ago.
Now,
Basically.
now, what do you mean by scoring?
At football, do you mean?
Yeah.
Yes, as 89. No, I never got a touchdown.
Aw.
I know, sad, huh? I wasn't playing a position that could. But anyway, I am a BattleTech MechWarrior fan that works for PGI, that happens to work for PGI. That's kind of who I am. I feel extremely lucky, and I'm very grateful for basically the last, I don't know, it was, well, 10 years ago we started the podcast, Phil and I, but, we've been working for PGI for about 8 years. And, yeah, I just feel extremely grateful and lucky to have been a part of all this.
I do have.
Because
Go on. Sorry.
yeah, I was going to say because you started the podcast 10 years ago, so you've been big BattleTech fans before even, of course, MechWarrior Online came out, before
Yeah.
that was even on the horizon.
Well, the truth of the matter is, and I've said this a lot of times, so I apologize for if I repeat myself, but this is your audience, so we'll see. I started playing tabletop in 1984. I bought it when it was Battle Droids, before it
Yeah.
even became BattleTech. I remember that day very clearly. I can still see it in my head that when I walked into that game store, I had no idea what I was getting into. I saw the box set up on the shelf with the Warhammer, and the rest is history, man. I fell in love immediately, and it's been a part of my life ever since. And that was like, I don't know, I was a young teen. I was maybe 12, 13.
Too long ago.
Very long time ago, before I had the beard. But yeah, I mean, and ever since then, it's been everything BattleTech or MechWarrior I've been into. Whether it was models, I remember collecting all the little models, the tabletop, all the expansions that came out for it. Played with my friends all the time. In the late 80s, when the video games started coming out, I got into those. I played every single video game iteration. Everything, whether it was single player, multiplayer, online or not, except for BattleTech 3025, when that came out for a very short time before it was discontinued. Unfortunately, I missed that window when it came out, so I was tracking it before it came out, and then the next time I checked, it had already come out and been gone. So I didn't play BattleTech 3025. I think that was Activision.
Yeah.
So I missed that one. Really pisses me off. But otherwise, I've played every single video game. I read about somewhere between 20 or 30 novels over and over again because when I get to the dark age, I stop.
Good choice. Very
Good choice.
You know what? I try and overcome that. I try and go a little bit further every time I do the cycle again and see if I can, I don't give it a fair shake. And the reason is because I'm just old school. I'm old and I'm old school.
Yeah.
I appreciate the old stories with the characters that I know. But I literally read those over and over again. And I have since, the 80s. So pretty much I've lived BattleTech MechWarrior my whole life. And when we started NGNG, Phil and myself, that was actually, we met playing MechWarrior Living Legends. We both got onto the dev team for Living Legends.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and so we were both a part of that. And then we started NGNG mainly as a TeamSpeak server and a forum I think we had back then at the beginning, as a way to bring, what we saw was a lot of BattleTech MechWarrior fans that were out there were kind of splintered, that they had their, there was this group over here and a group over here and a group over here and just tons of groups of BattleTech MechWarrior players, but they weren't together. There wasn't a community. They had each little pockets of community out there, and we were trying to just bring people together. And that was the original goal. It was really started off as a community, not a podcast.
Wow, that's interesting actually, because that's kind of like how I felt with the First Circuit podcast. Same thing. I want to bring all the different people together as a resource, and to for like people to help each other out in the community itself. And so yeah, Bombadil, that's very interesting. I love that concept you actually have for that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean it's BattleTech fans are passionate, and it was, I don't know, it was nice to start that community. It was nice to bring people together. It was cool to talk to people, and and then shortly after starting that and covering Living Legends, that's when PGI started to hint and announce MWO. So Phil and I kind of were in the right place at the right time, and one day, I think Phil had previously worked on a podcast that the topic was EVE Online. He and I both played that for a long time as well, but he was part of a podcast, and essentially he said, why don't we do a podcast for this? And so we did it.
Yeah, there's one question I want to ask you. In fact, I want to ask you for a long time. We get a lot of questions. I'm sure you get a lot of questions too about what do you know about this MechWarrior 5 on this blah blah, stuff like that. People don't realize what you do for PGI, and so what do you do for PGI?
What the hell do you do?
Yeah.
I do get that question every once in a while, and which is totally understandable. I've told my story like I've said before, but literally we started doing this 9 years ago. I think we started the podcast before we were contracted by PGI. So for a good year, Phil and I did it. Phil worked another job, and I went into debt basically. So for a year I lived off of credit, and Phil worked another job, and we did the podcast. And that was a hell of a year. We had no idea what we were doing or why, or and
kind of like what we're doing.
A wild ride. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it was a wild ride. We got so into it though that it got to a point where okay, either we have to do this or serious, or figure something else out. And that's kind of when I went to PGI and said, hey, we're loving what we do, but for us to continue, we're gonna have to work out a deal with you guys. And so yeah, basically, I mean, I'll skip ahead. My job description today is I wear several hats, but probably the most prominent is kind of like a community manager. I mean, technically, Tina obviously is a community manager, but Phil and I think it's kind of obvious, kind of share that role a little bit with her. We're definitely a part of the community and the management aspect of it. So that's one part of it, but it's also promotions. That could be anything from figuring out little, different ways that potential marketing opportunities or whatever, if I see them, or working with influencers such as yourself or streamers or YouTubers. So anything that can bring some eyes to MechWarrior or MechWarrior 5, I love to be a part of. And that also includes, hosting MechCon or whatever. I have little, every once in a while I'll be helping Matt in the background with events or ideas for, I don't know, decals or just little things if there's ever any need for help. And then I'm actually starting this last week helping out a little bit with the faction warfare lore and storyline and so forth. So just anywhere there's help, I'm super happy to help out. And yeah, I mean, I'm there's other roles as well. I just can't think at the moment. Other little things I do. It's basically though marketing, promotion, community management.
Okay. Okay. Because like, I mean, literally for the longest time, like we just associate your name with PGI as like the guy like hanging out with Russ, you know, like every single day type thing, like in the in the offices and stuff like that. So like, we're like, what does he do?
Very difficult to do because I'm not in the office. I work from home. So yeah, I mean, I have conversation. There's an internal chat client with the office, so every day I'm in discussions with different people in the office or whatever. Oftentimes being Russ. You know, I'm lucky in that I'm older. I've run my own businesses and companies since I was 20. I basically dropped out of college and just jumped into running businesses for myself, working for myself. I've done that since I was 20 years old. I've had a lot of a business experience. So, Russ and I were I'm actually 2 years older than him. And we did establish a pretty good relationship. We have a lot of similar growing up experiences, a love for the franchise. And so there's some mutual respect there. And so, yeah, I got lucky to make friends with Russ and some of the people at PGI early, definitely.
Cool. That's actually a really good like insight of different things about PGI, because I know that lately though it's kind of like with PGI it's been like this black screen that's been over PGI, what's going on and everything, which brings us into the next topic of the dev update.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Because literally it was just like what's going on, because like there's a lot of creators out there like TTB and like the Beef and everyone else that run a lot of different YouTube videos and make content for PGI or MechWarrior Online, and it got left in the air like what's going on. There's something big going on, so it really scares a lot of YouTubers and Twitch streamers. That's all they do, and that's how some of them actually make money to go and do different things. And so like when this bombshell drops, before we knew what was going on, when the bombshell drops, like we're gonna have a very huge dev update. We're gonna tell you like everything about what's going on. It's like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? It really scares a lot of people. And then sorry,
let's give it just from our perspective,
yeah,
of
okay.
course, which is just that
well, that's what I was trying to do there.
Well, from our perspective, of course, we are covering MechWarrior Online and various BattleTech properties every week, and obviously, at least one thing I'd mentioned was that we're catching up very quickly with the mech packs, and there should have been like about 2 or so more mech packs announced, and people saying, so what's happening with the mech packs? Has PGI forgotten? There haven't been any communication about this, and this is what I think is the great thing, that PGI did actually step up and do this dev update that Russ came along on to No Guts, No Galaxy and discuss things. But I guess at least since we have Bombadil here, what was your thoughts going into the dev update? What was what was your impressions about the how the dev update went?
That's that's I'm trying to formulate my answer in my head here as I stutter. I knew going into that podcast that it was going to be a difficult one for the community. But at the same time, I think I took out of it positives that other people didn't. I have a different perspective, and that's a hard thing. We started back in the day. Our perspective was pretty much we were players as well, and it was a lot easier to talk about things from that perspective. Once you start, now we've been doing this with PGI for 8 or 9 years now. I have a completely different perspective. I see what's happening behind the scenes. I see the stresses and the work that people at PGI are doing, and at the same time, my other foot is in the player base. I hear everything that streamers are saying, and I feel the frustrations myself when I play on certain things. And so it's really, I kind of have a dual perspective. So going in, I knew it was going to be a tough one. Um, and you never know how those live podcasts are going to go.
Yeah.
It was on Beer Friday, but it was it was fine. Russ,
Is it really like a
Russ,
Beer Friday?
yeah, the last Friday of every month, they take a break and have some beer and have a good time together, which I think is awesome.
That's cool,
like,
though. Yeah.
yep, last Friday of every month. But so while he was doing that podcast, yeah, everybody else was part. But anyway, so my feeling about it was that sure, I understand there's some disappointments, and faction play is a tough one, or faction warfare. Um, I don't play it nearly as much as I want to, but you really have to have kind of a good organized group to do that. And I haven't played with my aces in a long time. I've thought about getting Phil's Diamond Sharks and maybe trying to do some with them just so I have a better reference point. But it really takes kind of some commitment. And I understand the people that are playing faction warfare and how much they love it. And I understand why. You take me back to my days when I was playing like BattleTech Online, the AOL version or whatever. I had my group, and I loved the organization and the lore behind it. Again, it's a place to find story and purpose or whatever. I get the desire for faction play and what it can be and could be. So I understand the frustrations that lie around that. We want fixes and changes coming quicker than they seem to be, but and so I understand that from the player base, but I also understand the production issues. We got MechWarrior 5 coming out. Love it or hate it, it's coming out, and PGI is just not a huge developer. They're at least a medium size, if not small. 70-ish people or whatever. It's really a small company, and for the things that they are tackling every year, which includes MechCon, they have a lot to do. And so I understand the issues from both sides. So as far as faction play, I understand the disappointments. I hope to see as many changes come faction play as possible over the coming months and even years. To keep improving it, little improvements, quality of life improvements, new functionality when we can, whatever. I hope to see it improve. I hope to see people enjoy it more. As far as what's something else specific about the podcast that I can talk on, like the mech packs. You want me to go into that?
Yeah, sure.
We could do. Yeah.
Well, do you want me to, or do you want to go in a different direction first?
Yeah. So, at least my thoughts on faction play, at least I've been giving
Mm-hmm.
in the podcast, is been very much along the lines that, whilst there's been a vocal part of the community, it's always talked about lore, this, that, and the other. As sort of we discussed a bit before the podcast, was that MechWarrior Online has never really been the selling point. Hasn't really been the lore. It's about big stompy robots that you get to customize fighting one another. It's kind of like World of Tanks. It's using historical vehicles, but it's not really all about the lore. You're not actually fully recreating actual World War II battles. And I feel that's very much the same with MechWarrior Online. And my concern, at least, is with the faction warfare changes, is that doing all these story updates, doing forcing players to join one faction and the other and staying on that side, at least, in the initial implementation, those are all great steps towards PGI becoming a greater dungeon master, so to speak, that they're running a much more involved, D&D campaign. But the thing is, as the player base, slowly gets smaller and smaller with time, and faction warfare isn't the mode that is the majority mode anymore, becoming a dungeon master is a very labor demanding task. And since it has naturally admitted on the podcast, Russ and PGI are working on MechWarrior 5. They that is where their future lies. And these big changes in faction warfare, I don't think is the right way to go forward. I think, as you mentioned, at least just quality of life improvements would be much more effective and shake the boat a lot less. And I think that's one thing, at least from my perspective, that I haven't, leads to this sort of dissonance with, PGI and their communications with the player base. The player base just wants more incentive to play faction warfare. Well, you can do that just by like increasing faction play rewards, or fixing spawn point locations, making the maps more balanced, etc., etc. Whereas becoming a dungeon master, that's a really huge ask for a team that is really got the divided attention, and their attention is quite rightly on MechWarrior 5 right now.
Yeah, so here's the thing. First of all, I'll make the point clear. I was listening to my previous answer, and I'm like, gosh, you sound like a politician, and I hear that. I hear that myself when I talk, but I'm dealing with the fact that I am a paid employee for PGI, and so I have to pay attention to what I'm saying, because the stuff that I say can be taken out of context, or I can be saying stuff that I know about but I'm not supposed to talk about, or whatever. Here's the thing, and people can say what they want. They have for 10 years. Tons of people have called me liars on Reddit or whatever. That's fine. Everybody can have their opinion, but I am not. I'm an honest person, and so sometimes I have to formulate my answer in a way that's not going to get me fired. So that needs to be understood, that I am contracted by PGI, and so take that as you will. But here's the thing, like here's my opinion, and I understand that the things that I want and that I think definitely can be used as input when I'm talking to Russ or whoever at PGI, but I don't always get what I want or what I think is best. Not at all. I mean, it's, when you're working in a developer, there's all kinds of compromise from everybody. Everybody has to compromise because everybody has different ideas, what they think is going to be best, their perspective of why they think it's going to be. And there's plenty of times where I'm going to be wrong. I have been wrong. From the very beginnings of our podcast, Phil and I speculated on what MWO is going to be, and then we speculated on, different functionality and things. And over the years, we've talked about things that we like and we don't like. And so, what I'm about to say, these are my opinions, and I don't always get what I want, and I understand the realities of life, and that I'm not going to get what I want sometimes, and I have to work with what we have, and I get that. So here's my thing. Like, for example, and I'll get to the faction warfare part of it next. Like Phil and I from the beginning have always felt like group queue should be limited to groups of 4. But what we've dealt with from the beginning was basically a Pandora's box situation where MWO immediately came out with large groups, 12-man groups, 8 at first and then 12. And it's hard to go back on that. Basically, I remember over the years, a couple times where Russ was fishing from the community on whether they would want that changed. And almost every single time there was a big outcry from people that, like, I have 7 friends and that means we won't be able to play together anymore or whatever. All those kinds of answers made Russ go, yeah, we've already given this, we can't go back. But in my opinion, 4-man groups would make group queue much better. It would be, much more balanced. And you'd have just better matches overall. So Phil and I have both always agreed from the beginning, and just look at all the other, multiplayer games out there like that, like World of Tanks, for example. They limit their group size, and that is why it makes for better matchmaking. And so that's a personal preference. It's never going to happen probably, but that's the way I feel. And so similarly with faction warfare, I get the reasons for people loving it. I totally understand. It's people that want their play to have more meaning than I'm just dropping in to try and shoot mechs. They want the matches to matter. And that was my thing. Speaking of World of Tanks, I also played Clan Wars in World of Tanks. So I was part of a very organized unit. Every single night we had practice or we had matches, and you had to schedule, and it was a lot of work, but I loved it, and I did that for years. And so I totally understand the mindset of the people that love faction warfare. However, just like you brought up, with the game being, a 7-year-old game, with the populations declining, my feeling has been for a while that I would personally like to see Solaris and faction warfare be more of an event thing. So it's not something that's happening all the time. And that it's event based, so that when it does happen, people are more likely to jump into it, which gives you, people in the queue and so forth. to play against, and otherwise have just solo queue and group queue be the primary game mode. And so that's been my wish, but it's not what's being done. So I guess I have sympathy for the people that are playing faction warfare. I have hopes that as much of it can be fixed or addressed or made better as possible over the coming years, whatever. But I honestly have no idea how that's all going to come out. I do know, as far as like MWO's dead or whatever, which literally we've been hearing that since like the first year of doing the podcast. Like, it started off more as trolling or whatever, but we've been since MWO has launched, we've been hearing MWO is dead. So it's for a dead game, 7 years is pretty amazing. But I just I mean, I have my wishes and my own personal opinions, and then I also realize that there's reality, and I'm not going to get what I want and everything. But that's my opinion on the faction warfare thing. I think it's a tough nut to crack for sure to make everybody happy. You're just not going to do it within the MechWarrior Online BattleTech community. There's nothing you can do that's going to make everybody happy. There's so many different opinions. It's like juggling plates or whatever. So it's tough.
Yeah,
I think to give the case, at least for the impression a lot of people got about that update was the fact that most people are presumably doing something like playing quick play, like Rest Applied. At least the majority aren't doing faction warfare at this point, and that PGI is focusing all their resources on faction play till the end of the year. So that's 6 months where if all you do is quick play, PGI is not putting their focus on that at all. There's nothing to look forward to, and in some ways, we haven't broached this yet, but there's also not so many mech packs coming out. So if you're a quick play person, there's just not much content being promised down the line, at least in that particular podcast. Obviously, patches will have gameplay updates, this, that, and the other.
Yeah, quality of life.
Quality of life things. And on the point, at least, of faction warfare being, about like synonymous with having a greater sense of purpose with your battles, I'm not sure that has always over time, as of course, we had to put all the different queues into one queue, etc., etc. I am not sure if that's been a thing for a while.
Mhm.
Like the name implies it, sure, but if you change the name of the mode to invasion mode, where it's basically, it is 12v12 with 4 drops and sometimes siege mode, and there's also, I guess, a scouting there for some reason, that there wouldn't be these complaints. And at least for those people who've been playing for 7 years for faction warfare, and the system keeps getting changed, it keeps getting simplified and simplified, because of course you can't run every faction fighting every other faction. That's so many more queues than is really feasible. At least to me, it feels like it feels like barking up the wrong tree to try and make faction warfare actually faction warfare, when with a dwindling player base, it just doesn't make sense.
Well, it's kind of like you're sitting there, you hire a company. Well, I'm not saying PGI is being hired, but you hire a company to paint your house blue, but they paint it green. But that's not what I wanted. I wanted blue. Well, green's better. Here's green. It's not kind of like what the player base wanted. But of course, there's different opinions of how faction play should play. I have mine because I played MechWarrior 4 for years with the faction based type thing, where every planet was involved in something, like they either produced mechs or something else. You take them over, you get more stuff. But obviously, I know PGI can't do that, but they do something like similar. But of course, everyone has different opinions about how faction warplay should be played or done. But PGI, a small company. I mean, geez, these guys are pumping out MechWarrior 5, which probably takes almost all their resources, and then the community, all we get is, well, we're changing faction warfare, but we're not going to work on the major queue that's happening, which is quick play. We haven't worked on that for years. We made Solaris, which is cool. I love the concept. But like you said, it's probably just better as an event type thing, instead of actually being there with so much resources being put into that, instead of quick play. Quick plays, everyone plays it.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously so much potential for all the game modes and so many things, but it can become a biting off more than you can chew type situation. I think, just nobody's perfect. And,
Oh, yeah.
and I think Russ and PGI went into it with a lot of hopes and dreams, and, and then reality is reality. And so things change over the years. And then with MechWarrior 4 or 5 coming out, things are still changing. I have a lot of hopes for a continued licensing of the franchise, and potentially down the road there being a MechWarrior Online 2.0. I'm not saying anything official with that right there. I'm just saying my hopes and dreams. I would love to take everything that we learned from MechWarrior Online and then make it an incredible MechWarrior Online 2. I know all kinds of issues with MechWarrior Online 2. Like, people are like, "What about my mechs? Are they going to transfer?" I
Yeah.
can't answer any of that kind of stuff. I get the big questions that would come with it, but there's in the back of my head somewhere, there's like, well, man, just think what we could do with MechWarrior Online 2 with everything that we've learned from MWO, and then have it in the Unreal Engine. But but as far as MechWarrior Online goes, I think Russ was very clear that it's not done. We're not saying, well, MechWarrior 5 is coming out, so therefore we're just turning off the lights of MechWarrior Online. That's not the case at all. Russ would love to see MechWarrior Online go for years and years and years. So would I. I understand that the focus right now is MechWarrior 5. It's a new product. The company literally lives or dies based on how that does. And so, again, being a small company, they have to focus on that. But I do have hopes that there will be continued MechWarrior Online development, and that once MechWarrior 5 is released, and and whatever brush fires that may pop up have been put out, that there will be continued development of MechWarrior Online, including non-faction warfare stuff, like just little quality of life things. I love the redoing of maps, like the Canyon Network one, and I'd like to see some anything, basically. I mean, I'm looking forward to. So I don't know what's around the corner. I don't know what's going to be happening 8 months from now, a year from now, whatever. But I have my hopes, and I do know that MechWarrior Online, while it's still not making the money that it made back in the day, it is still making money. And so they're not going to just like say, screw the money. They're a developer. They got 70 people to pay salaries to, and they got to keep the lights on, and still doing MechCon. So they got to make money, and it would be dumb to ignore something that is still making money and still making the community happy. And the community happy is a big part of MechWarrior 5's success and MechCon. And so nothing's being shit on, basically, intentionally.
Yeah,
I've-
Yeah, go ahead, Ian.
I've got a question that touches on a lot of things you just said. How do you, as a support community manager, quote unquote, how do you collect user feedback? How do you prioritize it? And how does the PGI process of prioritizing upcoming changes work? Can you answer on that?
Yeah, so mine is more like specific topic oriented, my feedback. Like, Tina is more in as far as like monitoring Reddit, monitoring the forums. Tina handles that more than I do. Early on, I learned that Reddit and the forums were not a place that I like to hang out. And
No.
now, that being said, well, it started off back in the day. People just saying shit about me or Phil or NGNG or whatever, and I'd go and defend myself. But after a couple of years, I realized that you can't defend yourself ever. There's no point. You're just, and so everything. Let's see. How do I put this? Here's the main thing. Look, Reddit and the forum and any sort of forums can be great tools, and there are great things to find on Reddit and the forums. And the way I use them these days is if there's something specific I'm looking for, or if I'm looking specifically for feedback on, for example, faction warfare, I'll go and I'll browse Reddit and the forums on those topics. Okay, so this is just me. I'm not talking about Tina. My way, it's kind of like doing research. Okay, I have to go over there. I'll do it, and I can find good feedback. Okay, and you kind of have to.
You have to sift through a lot of crap.
Yeah, but I've learned internet culture. It took me a while. I'm older, but I understand. Well, I can't say I understand, but I get that there's trolls and all this stuff that goes on, and whatever. So I don't live in those spaces, but I can go and collect information from them if I need to. So typically for me, gathering information it's on something very specific. So either we have a podcast coming up and we're going to talk about it, or Phil and I might, for example, get a burn under our saddle about some issue within MechWarrior Online. And we do have the fortunate ability to go to, Matt or Paul or Russ or whoever might be the most appropriate person and talk to them directly about things. And so over the years, Phil and I have definitely been a catalyst towards, and no pun intended, catalyst, towards at least starting the discussion on certain changes within the game or whatever, certain topics. And so, and we try not to take advantage of that. Like, we don't go around going, here's the things that matter to us, and these are what we're going to talk to Russ about. We are always sticking our finger in the water, try and gauge the temperature, see what's most important to the players. The most important thing to Phil and I as NGNG is what's most important to the player base. It can, whatever's going to make the players happier and the game more successful. And so, again, going back to the question, the way I kind of gather my information is a multitude of ways. Reddit, forums. Oftentimes I'll throw up a question. I might tweet it out or put it on our forums or Discord or whatever and get information that way. I'll go talk to streamers. I'll sit in streams, and when people are, new patch comes out, I'll just sit, for days. I'll lurk. I do this all the time. I lurk streams all the time. Just listening to people talk. If they know I'm there, the talk changes. So
Yeah, exactly.
that's why. Yeah, so that's that's one way that, especially myself, I gather information is by lurking and listening to streamers or having discussions with them as well.
Note to self:
Now-
look at my player list, or look at my list.
People do, dude. It's so funny. Look who's in the chat now, and I'm like,
I've got a very quick follow-up to that. We've often heard the argument on the forums that BGI mostly listens to a vocal minority. How do you go on trying to avoid listening to the vocal minority?
That's tough, man, because it's and first of all, there's reality and there's perspective. Okay, so some people might have a skewed perspective on what PGI really listens to because they only see whatever they see. They might see a couple times complainers speak up and PGI answers, so therefore they turn that into their mind. PGI only answers to people that yell or scream or whatever. It's not the case at all. The community is being monitored at all times. It's in every way. Like, Tina really, like I said, follows Reddit and the forums. She's reading it all the time. There's all the time in the background within our internal chat. She'll bring stuff up and it'll be discussed with the appropriate people. And and some stuff gets responded to and some stuff doesn't get responded to. And what gets responded to, it's often how the community determines who PGI is listening to. But PGI will make changes sometimes without responding to the people that brought up the questions in the first place or whatever. Not because they mean to, but it's just busy and sometimes whatever. So my point is, the way you sift through it is basically you just listen to everything. And between Tina, myself, Phil, Chris Lowry, whoever's involved with the community on a fairly regular basis, we all can have a little voice in, when we're discussing topics that are brought up by the community. And believe me, we disagree with each other. We have, not, childish arguments, but we have arguments and disagreements about things all the time in reference to the community. And so, and what they want and what they need. There's that they know what they want, but is it really going to get the outcome that they need or whatever? I grew up in the era when video games, like, the way I would see if a video game was good was by looking at the back of the box and looking at the screenshots, and then you get home and you play it and it's either it's good or not. And if it sucked, you didn't have any recourse and there was no discussion with the developer. So obviously today is a very different time. And which is, it's both good and bad. I feel like sometimes a developer can get derailed a little bit by trying too hard to follow community input. And I'm not saying that community input isn't good. It can be. It certainly can be. A person's going to say, this is what I like in a game, and this is what will make me buy the game or whatever. But also, and this isn't a put down to anybody in particular, but also most gamers, the vast majority, are not developers. And one thing that I've learned early on in just running my own businesses, as well as NGNG and working with PGI, is you don't know what you don't know. That's something that I've said early on from my podcast, and it's just it's a truth that I've learned in life. And so it's easy to sit back and say, this or this about a game, and just put this in and everything will be great. Everybody will buy it and everybody will love it or whatever. But there's experience that comes with doing something as, in life. And there are things that people just don't understand. And I'm not calling people stupid,
Well,
Go ahead.
yeah, I do feel like I should, at least in this context, press you on this a little bit, at least with the
Go for
most
it.
recent context of the update stream. Obviously, at least in my opinion, the most recent patch with Faction Warfare was very rocky. From what I could see, at least, the number of comments and discussions on Faction Warfare exploded on like the MechWarrior Online website and other places. A lot of people very upset with a lot of the changes. The first day of scouting, for example, and a lot of people don't really want to do scouting. They were stuck in certain roles, etc., etc. And that was why, of course, there was so much interest in this update. And the update is not only that, the update is then delayed a week, which because unfortunately you couldn't make it. But in the stream itself, people are complaining about faction warfare change. It's all very rocky. And Russ sort of just blurts out at some point, "Oh, the feedback we've got is very positive," and the chat explodes with everyone saying, "What positive feedback?" It just and at least if you're saying you have the pulse on the community. I'm not saying that all their criticisms are correct. I'm just saying the pulse of the community is very strongly. There's a lot of problems with this most recent patch, and all that we heard in that thing was, "Oh, what we've heard is positive."
Yeah. So first of all, I don't have the pulse on the community. I have a pulse on the community. And so, my pulse can be different from somebody else's depending on who they're talking to and the feedback that they're getting. What Russ is referring to, first of all, the people that are coming to a podcast like that are going to be a certain type of person. And I'm not being a negative, I'm not saying that only assholes come to listen to podcasts, of course.
Yes,
not
everyone from the
way,
First
or
Circuit
complainers
podcast
or whatever. But typically that's where you're going to get a more vocal group. And I'm not saying anybody's wrong with the vocals that are being put out, but when Russ says something like, "I'm getting a lot of positive feedback," what you got to understand is that he does. I do too. During that whole podcast, I was getting overwhelmed with Twitch whispers from people who were like, saying, "I just want to let you guys know, even though there's a lot of anger right now, we totally love what you're doing and appreciate it, blah blah." And we do get a lot of positive feedback. And I think sometimes those people that have positive things to say are a little bit uncomfortable saying it in the Twitch chat because it's more. And I'm not saying there's no reason to be upset. I'm not saying that at all. But I feel like, for the most part, that if you're not trolling with beef, then you're going to kind of get ignored in that chat or whatever. And so I'm not saying that that the only true feedback is that it was positive. I'm just saying that there is positive feedback coming in. So that's what Russ is referencing. Obviously, there were issues with that patch. There needed to be a hot fix, and it was a bumpy rollout or whatever. I feel like with faction warfare, that's why I knew going into that podcast it was going to be a rough one. It's just faction warfare, no matter what, unless we're saying we're putting all of our resources into faction warfare and we're making all the changes that you want, literally, which would have to be all the changes that have been pretty much suggested, then we're going to get negative feedback because just faction warfare itself is contentious. There's a bunch of people that are like, just fuck faction warfare. Why do you even have it? And then there's a bunch of people like, if you take faction warfare out, I will stop playing the game. So it's like, there's more that say F faction warfare. Obviously, the population that plays faction warfare is fairly small. And so it's just a tough one, and so where is Russ getting positive feedback? Yes. Are we getting negative feedback? Certainly. And the negative feedback is what we at least use as a starting point when production meetings happen, and what should we be doing with faction warfare. But when you go into development and you're looking at something like faction warfare, you sit down and you have first you have just talking meetings. How do you do it? Or what are we going to do, or whatever? And you take, okay, well, this is what the community is clamoring for, and then the first filter is, what does the community want? Another filter might be, what's realistic? What can we do? What do we have the resources to do? In other words, do we have programmers? Do we have artists? That can make these changes? And so, based on whether or not you have those, then things can get into the production line and the queue or whatever. But not everything is always available at all times, and so it's, like I said, just going into it, I knew it was going to be rough. Faction warfare is always a difficult discussion. From the day that faction warfare was announced, at the launch party, and what features were going to be in it, it's been a nonstop issue. And so.
Yep.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a double-edged sword too. Like taking criticism and then also taking positive too. It all depends what you're listening to, and with the criticism of faction warfare, it's easier to listen to negative than it is to actually listen to positive a lot of times as content creators, because it actually takes to heart, because everyone wants to be I know, not loved, but liked by different people that are out there, like throughout the community. And when you hear a crap ton of negatives, I mean, I get that all the time for some dumb reason. I'm a pretty cool guy, but I get it all the time, and it comes to heart a lot of times. You just don't want to create content. You just don't want to do anything. It's like, okay, I don't want to do this crap anymore, or do that kind of stuff. And for a company, when they're trying to develop a game system, mode, or a new mech and stuff like that, I'm pretty sure PGI gets their fair share, and that actually brings up another topic I wanted to ask you. Go on, Biter.
Okay. Because I was going to, at least with this in mind, the way I would sort of sum it up, it felt like it all came into a good combination at the end of the podcast. At least, Bombadil, you were very strongly talking about, the important thing to remember is we have a very good community, and I very much agree with that. The game has lasted so long because people really love MechWarrior Online. They love BattleTech. They love the setting. They love the gameplay.
Don't you be talking about my BattleTech.
well, look, I'm sorry to interrupt, and maybe I'll let you. I won't interrupt.
Okay. And that is very much like in your most recent, pushing you on the issue a little, was that you said, people have been whispering to you that they still really like the game. That is true, but for me, what I feel you aren't assuaging is the feeling that you are you're actually moving towards the most efficient solutions, that you are confident in the actual, like PGI is actually confident in the choices they are making. And I don't feel, or at least I don't feel confident in their choices. Like the faction warfare changes, at least I've been predicting for a while, that it's been a slow-moving train wreck for quite some time. And finally, when they implemented the thing, it turned out to have all the issues that many people were talking about for quite some time. And it's like, yes, we have a strong community, but why people are lashing out is because they feel like we're on a runaway train, and the conductor says everything is going fine.
Yeah, I mean, you got to understand certain aspects of communication are going to be typical, right? Like within the industry. I've already stated what my personal preferences would be, right? Which would be faction warfare and Solaris being event based, and so that's part of what I've learned about development. It's like I said, compromise, and just the struggle with reality. Like, yes, I can see, Darren, can personally see in my, from my perspective, that I feel like this would be better. Doing A would be better for MechWarrior Online. But the reality is, and I'm just talking figuratively, it's not going to happen. So what do? Do I stomp around and get pissed off, or do I go, okay, well, that's reality? The thing is, I understand the frustrations 100%. Like, I'm a gamer, man. I played Pong. That was, back in the day, I remember fighting with my dad to play fucking Pong. I played games since games were invented, and that's been my whole life. I am a gamer. Going into NGNG, the whole thing was being a gamer, doing gaming podcasts. Like, I understand the frustrations with games. I play a ton of games. I listen to all the things that people like and don't like. I know what I like. I know what I don't like. But what I think I also kind of said in that podcast or the developer update was that, like, I'm just grateful. I understand the frustrations of the community. I understand the specific frustrations of certain aspects of the game. Totally get that. And there's plenty of discussion that to be had or can be had. More answers that you're going to want than I'm able to give, because again, like I said, I do work for the company, so I have to frame my answers that way. But what I will say, and this is 100% from the bottom of my heart, is I feel still, even though it's not a perfect situation, even though PGI isn't a perfect developer, MechWarrior Online isn't a perfect game, Faction Warfare isn't a perfect game mode. I'm just freaking happy that here we are, this many years later, and it's still here. You look at games like Hawken or Fractured Space or whatever that come and go. Not only have we lasted, but we've had a freaking yearly convention. And BattleTech has come out of this, and the tabletop has grown, and there's more fiction being written, and now we're going to have a new single player campaign, and so while I think there'll be certain people that will go, well, but it's not what I want it to be, so fuck it all, fuck PGI. That's fine. Everybody can have their opinion. But maybe it's because of my age. Maybe it's because I've gone through all the droughts of BattleTech and MechWarrior content. Maybe it's because I'm getting, I'm getting less upset by little things or by things that happen within game development, because I've developed a greater understanding of what happens behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But my perspective on that podcast, and I know this isn't going to be the same for the majority of the people, but man, I'm just fucking glad it's all still here. We have all these forms of BattleTech and MechWarrior to satisfy us. And I remember the times when we didn't. And so while things aren't perfect, while things still make me upset and wish that they can be different, there's a big part of me that's just fucking grateful, excuse my language, that it's here, and that I get to be a part of this community still, and that there's still growth and forward momentum. Could this be a way better game if Rockstar was developing it or whatever? Certainly that's a possibility, but guess what? Rockstar's not going to fucking do it. And probably neither is Microsoft. Most mech games aren't successful. The mech genre is extremely difficult. It's an extremely niche game. Like, even look at Titanfall, okay, or Titanfall 2. I love the mech combat. That's my favorite part of those franchises. But if you go watch streamers or most of them hate the mechs and they just do the infantry in the PvP or whatever. That's a reality that we have to deal with. Everybody, I've seen those comments from the beginning. Oh, if only some other developer had this, it'd be way better. Most other developers aren't going to touch it with a 10-foot pole because it's just too hard of a niche to get into mech stuff. So again, I'm not just saying, I'm not saying this is crap, but I'm going to love it because there's no other alternative. I think mistakes have been made, but I am still super proud of what we've done, what we have, and where we're going. I understand life isn't going to be perfect.
You shouldn't take MechWarrior Online for granted, but I think that's, at least from my position. I hope my criticisms haven't been like a lot of the ones you brought forward. I'm not saying screw you. I think you PGI and whatnot, that you all have a great you're never doing things maliciously. I've never said anything like that. And sometimes, we do indeed take it for granted. But I think, that is why, at least, when I bring my criticisms forward, I think, it could be done better. You could spend your resources more efficiently. Part of it is because of my background in quality assurance and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But
Hey,
the other side is,
go ahead.
I'm trying to make my constructive criticism, and at the end, I'm not hearing anything about, in the end, the whole thing with the faction warfare stuff is they put so much time into it. They've implemented the patch. At this point, you have to now pick up the pieces, and I could fully agree with that. I don't agree with the initial choice, but that's what's been made. But in the end, all we heard was just these, oh, we're so glad we have the community. And for me, at least, it's not touching enough on the actual game design, meat and
Content.
bones. Yeah.
Content.
Yeah.
That's what everybody was saying in chat. Content. I get it.
Mhm.
Look, to wrap it up on that, or not, you can keep going. My
We'll
feeling
move
as
on.
far as
Yeah.
my feeling as far as criticism is, not only is it okay, it's essential, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so criticism is necessary. And I don't think anybody that I know at PGI is against criticism. It's all about how it's worded, being an adult about it or whatever. And sometimes people, I think, get the impression that if they're not screaming and making a temper tantrum or whatever, they're not being heard, and that's not the case at all. It's quite the opposite. Most criticism that is done properly does get to the appropriate person in PGI. I'm 100% aware of this. I've seen it over the years. But again, it's not like we're looking for white knights to only say that everything is beautiful. We can do that ourselves. Criticism is absolutely necessary. Podcasts like yourself, YouTubers, Critical Rocket, a bunch of these people always feel like I'm going to get upset because of criticism, and that's not the case at all. I love criticism; it's necessary. It does get into the system, and it does affect development. And so, yeah, I'm absolutely 100% for it. I probably didn't answer the faction warfare questions to some people are going to be like, total obvious politician answers or whatever. I'm sorry. I don't play enough faction warfare to have more insight or whatever. And like I said, really tough topic.
I think my positive side on the Russ doing this podcast is he just flat out admits, like, stuff like the mech packs are taking quite a bit longer to make a return on investment. So it's like, okay, that's it's a sour pill to swallow, but at least he's telling the truth. And even if things like faction play, the not switching sides really made it hard to find matches. If lots of people joined one faction at one time, they did a hotfix for that, which we'll be covering in a bit. So that PGI is very good in some regards of actually addressing the criticisms. So we're good than that.
I have just one question and then kind of like a comment. And the question is, a while back, I noticed people that actually don't play the game like anymore, and the bunch they're scum of the earth. But I think you know who I'm talking about. Tear down, like those guys. What I don't know if you can answer that or not, or how everything goes, but what are some of the things I know, like you instituted, or not you, but like PGI actually instituted, like no team damage and no comms for the first 25 games, which is a great thing that actually stopped that team killing, because then they got to make new accounts and everything. Have you heard anything else from these guys? Like a lot, and plus has PGI done any type of lawsuits against these people for actually, literally trying to bring down the company?
So,
if you don't want to answer it, don't worry about it.
No,
that's fine.
No, it's not.
I know it's a hard question, though.
Actually, you're gonna have to edit this because I got to think about this for a second.
Okay, no problem. Like, then I'll go to my comment. If you don't want to answer it, don't worry about it. I'll go cut it out. It's no big deal.
No, here I can answer.
Okay.
So basically, yeah, obviously a lot of things have been implemented to deal with particular trolls within the community that are obviously out there to do to only harm the game, have no other purpose other than to it's basically retaliation and frustration. Unfortunately, because of things that are going on to deal with that in other similar situations, I can't comment. Like, legally, I can't even comment on it. So
I didn't think you could, but I just want to get the answer.
Maybe that answers it a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. Cool.
Yep.
The other thing is, though, like you definitely commented on the community, and I have to say I am so happy. Ecstatic. I'm part of this community. It's going to MechCon, meeting all the different people that are out there. You, Paul, Phil. Like Wes Santini came from Austria. A whole bunch of different people from all around the world came together. I met Biter. He didn't tell me, but I met Biter.
Mark.
Yeah. And being part of the
wait. He didn't tell you, so you met him, but you didn't know it was.
Yeah,
I
well,
told him before the con, but
yeah.
it took me telling him several times until he listened.
It's like, dude, you're coming back. Why'd you tell me? Oh, well, I told you 2 weeks ago. It's like, oh, you bastard.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. But like I said, I'm totally ecstatic being part of this community. I mean, meeting, having you on the podcast, having the podcast, having the hosts like Ian Biter, Lars, and everyone else, and all the people that I've met and talked to and played with, and all that kind of stuff. Like, I was in the accident and I did not know what to do, and the community came together and helped me out, and that's
I saw that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I'm glad it was nothing.
Oh God, yeah, it's just
A
amazing,
belt, right?
Yeah, no, actually, like this is my major thing I had in January.
I thought you were just talking about recently where you thought something was okay.
No, I mean that's just
the big one.
Yeah, the big one. But I mean, it's just it's amazing, the community and the passion that these people have for each other. It's like it's just great, and I'm so happy I'm part of this community. It's the best community I've ever been with. And yes, I play Pong too. I used to have battles with my with my friend to go play Pong. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yep.
Okay, and that's that's my key part there.
This community, I've always been a part of the BattleTech MechWarrior community, and I always say it's my favorite community, and that's legit. There's several reasons I think that is. Number one, it's a franchise that I totally care about and I'm passionate about myself, but also it tends to be an older community because people did get into it in the 80s or whatever. And so, yeah, man, I mean, I've seen this community do amazing things, from, raising whatever it was, $125,000 for cancer research with Sarah Jenner, to all kinds of other charities that have happened. Like at the beginning of MechCon this year, I kind of mentioned all that stuff, that the amount of giving and caring and support that comes from this community is freaking amazing. And yeah, I have a huge passion for this community. I love these people, and obviously, there's a few outliers that are just trolls and whatever. But it's easy to ignore that when you have all the positivity. And that's one of the cool things about being somebody who works with the streamers and YouTubers or whatever, is when you get those people that come into the community and they're like, oh my God, this community is amazing, and they'll always talk about what games they come from and what communities they've experienced. And they're serious. I mean, a lot of people say you're biased or whatever, but there's seriously something special about the BattleTech and MechWarrior community. We are a great community.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Quickly, I want to second that. And also, you touched on Sarah's Jenner. Is there any plan to do a similar thing in the future?
Oh,
do you know about anything?
Please.
Because that was really, really awesome, and
Yeah,
the community would love it.
I love charities. I know there was originally a question in here as far as like, what is NGNG and what do you want it to be, or what is it? What is your goal with NGNG or something like that? That was one of the original questions for this podcast. Basically, it started off as a way to build a community, but more so these days, it's more of a platform for raising up other people within the community, like your podcast or other streamers or content creators. We like to use ourselves as a platform. That's like when I stream. That's why I like to send our stream to another streamer, and I let them do a giveaway and make sure everybody from my channel goes over there and follows. I feel like we can be used as a tool to grow other people. And one of the things that's come out of that is charities over the years. There's been nothing that has meant more to me than the charities that we've done. I freaking love doing charity streams and charity support. And it's also super emotional. We've done some seriously emotional charities. We raised like $5,000 for this kid that I know that had cancer. He's clean now. He got through cancer. Yeah, and this was some years ago. But the community just did an amazing job, changed that kid's life, literally changed the life of somebody. And I've seen, people have situations where storms destroyed their houses and the community come together and raise thousands of dollars for them. Over and over and over again, I've seen this community just come together and support each other, support people that they don't even know. And I've never gotten as much satisfaction or joy than when we're raising funds for a good cause. I would love to do more of it. I would love to do something like Sarah's Jenner again. It's been brought up before. I wouldn't be surprised if it does happen again on some level, whether it's with MechWarrior Online or MechWarrior 5 or whatever. but I have no confirmations on anything happening. But I love it personally. I think it's one of the best things that we can do.
Because I could tell you though, like when I see Sarah Jenner, it's like the Holy Grail, oh, type
Oh,
thing.
yeah, man.
It's like, oh my God, Sarah Jenner, type thing. So yeah, it was a good cause, and charities are actually one of the cool things about MechWarrior Online too, to help other people, and that's where the community comes into effect.
That Sarah Jenner was one of the first little bits of content I created way back in the day. I did the commercial for Sarah Jenner. Um, and it was like I was learning I remember when I made that, I was still learning the like the camera tools with MechWarrior Online, what I could do to shoot content within the engine. And then I was doing the voiceover for it, and Sarah's Jenner available from MechWarrior Online, all this stuff. And I remember that, I just remember it sticking out a lot because it was one of the first, like I said, pieces of content I created. And then all of a sudden, after that came out, I got a link sent to me. Basically, that got played all over Canada on TV. So like all of a sudden, like one of the first things I made was my voice was all over Canadian TV.
Oh wow.
Because news stations were promoting what we were doing and everything like that. Not that that's the takeaway from doing Sarah's Jenner, but I just remember that being a very intense and cool time. It was also extremely difficult. I have 2 daughters, and even to this day, if I let my mind think too much on what Sarah Jenner was about and why it happened, like I can't. I have a really hard time with. That's why I love these charities, man, especially the ones that support kids and in situations like that, because that father, we had communications with him, and man, nothing in this world is harder than a parent that loses a child.
Definitely so.
So one thing that we regularly touch on the podcast is marketing and communications. And for us, it's always like we sit here and be like, PGI, please do something to market the game. And now that we've got someone who's actually involved in marketing, I would like to hear your opinions. Do you think the marketing is adequate? Do you think there can be more to be done? What would you like to do, and how constrained are resources?
Are we talking about MechWarrior Online or MechWarrior 5 or
MechWarrior
both?
Online primarily, but if you want to touch MechWarrior 5, go for it.
Yeah. So as far as are we doing enough? I don't feel like we're ever doing enough. Marketing is very difficult, and marketing a mech game is even more difficult. And it's not like I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. It's not like marketing is you put in $1,000 and magically you get $10,000 back in game sales or whatever. It's not this magic formula that no matter what, if you market, it's going to have a return on your investment. Now, obviously, my answer would be, I think we should do as much marketing as we possibly can on both MechWarrior Online and MechWarrior 5. Like that, if I had my way, we'd be doing TV commercials every day about like
Hell yeah.
I totally marketing, no matter what, whether it's a good return on the investment or not, it's going to hopefully, if you're doing it anyway near correctly, it's going to bring people to the game. Was MWO marketed enough? No, I don't feel like it was. I feel like there were other opportunities that were out there. The problem is, here's the issue really with marketing, is that we started off MechWarrior Online with a publisher, IGP. And they were handling the marketing early on in the game. They were the marketing early on in the game for MechWarrior Online, and that relationship didn't work out. And I was involved back then, and I had a lot of frustrations with the marketing that was happening. And in the beginning of a game's life cycle, that's the most important time, obviously, before the game comes out, and right when it comes out, that's the most important time to market. You're going to get a better return on investment. Marketing MWO now today, would it bring new people to the game? Would it be people that like, oh, I didn't even know MWO existed? Absolutely, but the return on the investment is not going to be as strong today, anywhere near as strong as it was when the game launched, because it's an older game. But dealing with IGP, their decisions in marketing was frustrating often. And I was involved in early things like Angry Joe playing MechWarrior Online. That all happened. That happened because of me. I established that relationship, but then it got basically taken out of my hands and became a disaster. and so there were some huge frustrations early on. And so, did it receive enough marketing? No. Again, one of the difficulties of being a smaller company, a smaller developer, is smaller budgeting for marketing or whatever. I have worked with as many people as I could over the years, content creators, YouTubers, Twitch streamers. I brought like Bike Man in to play the game. Actually, he was a founder, but when Solaris came out, he's a streamer if people don't know. When Solaris came out, I brought him in to do a paid gameplay for a few hours or whatever. And I've done as much as I could on that level, especially dealing with influencers. But it's a struggle. Now, so is there going to be more MWO marketing? As much as can be, like it'd probably be more like grassroots stuff or dealing with influencers or whatever, supporting influencers. That's what I do every single day. I'm always looking for new streamers that come in. I support our current streamers as much as I can, because even the smallest streamers is influencing people. That term influencers is legit. I watch small streams, I watch big streams, and every single stream where somebody's really into the game and they're playing, they are bringing people in. One might bring in a few people, and one might bring in a few dozen people or whatever, but it happens. And so I think that's legitimately one of the most important places we can do, is support people that are loving the game and content creators and reaching people. That brings people in. Could we do some big marketing campaign? Probably. Will Russ do something for MW like that? Probably not. But MechWarrior 5, I see a lot of people saying they want more marketing for that. I wholeheartedly agree. The only thing I can say about marketing of MechWarrior 5 right now is that I know from talking to Russ that there's things in the works. I don't know what they're going to be yet. Like MechWarrior 5, I'm not in on that development as much as I am with MechWarrior Online. I ask all the time. I talk to, like I said, that Alexander Garden, who's kind of leading the lead on the project. I talk to these guys as often as I can. I get as much information as I can, but I don't know everything that's happening. I do know Russ said that something is in the works, so for marketing specifically, and I'm just as anxious as anybody else to find out what it is. And I feel like we have a lot of opportunity to bring people into this franchise again, which could bleed over to bringing more people into MWO.
Certainly.
I got one question, or actually a Gaelic response to that. And now, marketing really doesn't have to actually cost money. Of course, there's it's time involved.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, basic guerrilla marketing is one of the things that a lot of people don't understand, and that what you can do. Like the perfect example would be the Irby. Like when that first came out, that was a beautiful video that you guys did that made me want to go buy that. That was awesome.
Talking about the which one?
It was the video that was
K9,
like
the Urban Mech K9, the hero.
Oh yeah.
That made me want to go purchase
one.
it, and it did. It's like, cool. Here's my $20. I want it, type thing. So
Sure.
marketing does not cost money. One of the things that like I think a lot of us are concerned, especially on the podcast, is like updates to the PGI channel with different videos. Now, like video production, like all that kind of stuff, I know it costs time and money because you got to have hire someone to go do that kind of stuff. But just doing music videos with like really cool scenes, or like this is the new faction thing for this, and here's really cool. Like when you first brought out the faction warfare changes, you had a really cool intro scene of the dropship dropping off, which I use sometimes for my my stuff, and it was cool. It was just awesome. That kind of stuff would actually increase a lot of different marketing, and it doesn't really cost that much money to go and produce, but creates a lot of really good results, especially on Twitch. Well, actually, like on the YouTube, but then the marketing through Twitter, marketing through Facebook, that kind of stuff. It's not that much money.
Hey, I'm 100% in favor of doing video type stuff. Remember the early days, every hero mech that was coming out or whatever, we'd have a man, I love that stuff, and I totally agree. I'd love to do just a campaign of videos that we do some kind of cool video like that, and then we put it out on it's a Twitch commercial, it's a YouTube commercial, in Facebook and Facebook ads, whatever. I'm totally down for that. It's a matter of basically getting Russ on board and him seeing the return on investment. But also right now, okay, so you said that kind of stuff doesn't cost money. I know you know the reality. The reality is the time,
Yeah.
the resources, which are the people that put that together, they're getting paid a salary. So that's the money. Is it worth it? Yes, I still totally think it's worth it. That's the only investment is somebody's salary, that whoever's working on it. And I feel like the ROI on that, even today, is worth the effort. But again, those people, those resources that would do that right now are focusing on something else. So yes, and actually, that's something like that could be, jobbed out. We could find people within the community, and
I volunteer.
The one that Bandit used, the comp thing that his comp videos that came out and had all the comp team discussions in the background, and whoever put that together, I'm forgetting who it was, which is bad me. I'm just going to say it's because it's Saturday morning and my brain's not working. But anyway, that kind of stuff I would totally go for too. It doesn't necessarily have to be somebody within PGI that puts it together. I've in fact pitched that before. Having somebody from the community put together a video that we could use as a commercial and market more. It's something that I still try and make happen, and I still will try and make happen. And I agree, it's totally worth it.
I mean, there's a lot of talented art, like dedicated people out there that just do MechWarrior videos. Now, I mean, I'm mediocre compared to some of these other people that they produce some excellent, I mean, God, mind-blowing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, like I would suggest, look into the community, kind of saying, hey, we need some people just to make some stuff, to make some commercials, like once every 2 weeks. Pop something out. Like I know it takes a little bit to go ahead and make some videos. Don't get me wrong, because I know the back end of it. But I mean, literally, though, the return on investment on that would just be mind blowing.
Well, maybe, right?
Maybe.
The reality is, who's going to see the metrics? Like I've had this discussion with Russ before, and he has to really be convinced. Like he's a steward of the money that PGI has.
Yeah.
And so he has to spend it wisely. And we've had debates about the return on investment and doing stuff like that, where he's not saying, oh, it's a bad idea. He's just saying the money would be better spent elsewhere. Yeah. And so, obviously we would love to see machinima style videos promoting MechWarrior Online and
yeah, they're good.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun, and it'd be satisfying to see that, and it'd be good to know that it's out there reaching people and hopefully bringing more people in. But whether it's a return on the investment or not, that's left to somebody who has the metrics more. But yep, there's one. Wow, we got. Just some good stuff. There's amazing. The talent within the BattleTech MechWarrior community is insane. Over the years, whether it's 2D, just artwork, or the animes. There's some of the animes that have been out there. Oh my God, there's so many extremely talented people within this community, including you guys and your podcast, and incoming, missile. And there's just really talented people in this community with amazing skills, and I just feel like honored to have been able to see so many of them over this last decade.
Definitely. I would very much agree that there is a hidden cost to the machinima, and it's a question of how much return on investment, how many people even see those videos, like even official PGI videos, like for MechWarrior 5. I really liked the advert. It was showing off the destruction in the game.
That
was
cool.
Yep.
But the views on that thing, at least on YouTube, like it was a hidden gem. There was only 10K views or something. So
those are the metrics that Russ will come back to me when I bring the stuff up. Well, we did this. Here's the views. And so. But more could be said. Like if you exposed it more, maybe you'd get more views. I don't know.
It takes it over time, though. Basically, as far as like when you market something, you have to constantly market it, and not just putting out a video going, I hope someone sees it. You just can't market that way. You have to constantly bombard, and through YouTube, Twitch.
It's repetitive.
Yeah,
it's being repetitive. I was in the music industry before this. I used to run a couple of small indie record labels, and when we were doing like magazine campaigns or whatever, marketing a new album, it was basically an industry rule that you weren't going to get a return on your investment until you, like monthly magazines or whatever. You'd have to at least put your ad in the magazine 3 months in a row before you start before people start picking up on it, basically.
Yeah.
So it is about repetitivism. Is
I
that
mean,
Yes.
the word?
But
Yeah.
there's repetition.
Repetition, and so people need to be thumped over the head with something over and over and over again before that marketing starts to take place. And so, but then that obviously increases the amount of money it costs to market or whatever. But I agree, you can't just put something out there. If you build it, they will come. To a certain extent, that's true. But really, for it to have maximum impact, you've got to do it on a regular basis.
Well, one thing, my second part to this point would be, of course, machinima. It's very tricky to make it work right, but what we, at least in the first circuit, cover, is the weekly minutiae of sales, events, this and that and the other things to keep players around or to get players back. And I think a big prominent member of the community, at least who have been talking about things like this, is the storefront with Kanajashi. What are your thoughts on, this doesn't cost so much money to just try and change and improve and optimize the sales, the events, and so forth?
Say that again, like be more specific. I'm not sure what.
Okay, so there's a lot.
I'm aware of
particulars you can get
Kaneyashi's
into.
videos.
Yeah. So, Kanajashi is very different from like events. For example, at least with the double XP event, my criticism of it last week was, if you're earning double XP, then you have to spend a whole bunch of extra C bills, but the event is only giving you cockpit items.
Right.
And particularly if there's a double XP going on, that's the great time to pick up a new mech. So, again, that's the time to actually be giving people C bills so that they don't feel so bad about their wallet suddenly becoming empty.
Space
you
poor.
counterbalance it out. And that's oddly enough, this week, when we'll get onto this week's event, they're giving lots of C bills, but the double XP is already gone. So, it's sort of lost the synergy. And so just small changes like that, the person who makes the events, or I imagine it's just changing what values you put at as a reward. And I often say as well, like events, you should do a simple, easy one, get 50 match score, and you give premium time at the start. That way, if someone is using a free-to-play account, they've not got a huge amount of banked premium time, they get the premium time first, and then they feel incentivized to play more. Just small optimizations like that can really help player retention and make the game much more engaging overall.
Okay, so the person that is directly involved with the events is Matt Newman, and Matt is a great friend. He's an awesome guy, and he is absolutely 100% open to receiving feedback, and he will directly change things about the events based on that feedback. He wants the events to be as fun for you guys and satisfying for you guys as possible. So his Twitter account is Matt _.
Yeah, I'll leave links down below.
Yep, it's Matt _Neutron at Twitter, and contact him. He asks for it. He regularly asks for people to give him feedback. He wants the events to be as great as possible. He puts a lot of work into them. And so, he'd be, and just explain that, say why, just like you did me. And I can almost guarantee you he will affect those changes.
Yeah, man, after the last event, man, I was space poor. I was space poor like on my secondary account. I'm like, oh my God, I got 100,000 C-bills. This is sucky.
It's been awesome. Like MRBC, when they were around, they would come up and say, we're doing this event, the next tourney, and could you guys do an event and a sale based around the comp scene? And then they would, give us mechs that they want and different things that they want out of the event to benefit the people that are playing comp and that kind of stuff. He loved it, man. So he is looking for suggestions. He is looking for ways to work with the community more and make the events more appealing and more fun, and to do exactly what you just described. So that's my suggestion as far as events go. Contact Matt. He is ready and waiting.
Well, unless you guys have more to add, I think it might be time to move on to our quickfire round. So, Bombadil, are you ready to answer some really quick questions about your Battletech?
Have I answered any of these questions quickly? This is going to be a struggle for me, isn't it?
A real challenge.
All right.
I know.
All right, here's going to be the challenge. Your answer is going to have 3 words maximum.
3 words maximum. Okay.
Let's get going. What's your favorite Battletech faction?
Mercenary? Does that count?
Right. Sure. Least favorite faction?
Clan. Anything clan.
I like you already, man. I
Light of
hate
you. Oh.
clans.
All right, favorite character.
Grayson Carlisle, I guess. I like a lot of, especially the early mercenary leaders. Those are my favorite.
All right, and the most hated characters.
Character?
Yeah.
Most hated? Anybody in House Liao?
Perfect. That's exactly what I was fishing for. All right.
Anybody.
Your favorite mech in BattleTech lore.
Warhammer.
Your least favorite mech.
Oh, I mean,
Yeoman.
one of the, I mean, honestly, one of my least favorite is going to be anything from Dark Ages. They just got all weird looking.
Yep, perfect. There we go. And last one, your favorite novel.
My favorite novel?
Uh-huh.
Oh man, that's a tough one. I love the Warrior trilogy. I love the Grey Death Legion. I'll leave it at those. I mean, those are classic.
All right.
Right.
That was 3 words.
It was way more than 3 words. What if the title Warrior Trilogy? That's okay. That's 2.
Okay.
You might have to edit those to make them sound quickfire. I had to think on
It's
a lot
fine. It's fine.
It's fine. Like I probably won't do that because that's just just part of it.
Yeah, that was easy.
As
For the most
long as
part.
it's fun to listen to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think next we got the regular segment, which is new events and sales, C bills, and the hotfix for the 4th. So I guess we'll go over those real quick. New event. We get to that now. Never mind.
The Mech Chella.
Chella Anj. Yeah. Why was that called that? I don't know why that was called that.
I'm assuming that's again Matt.
I mean, Matt has the difficult name of naming a event every week,
Yeah.
and also naming each individual little part.
He has to. So Matt, first of all, I want to point out Matt works very hard. He is one of the busiest guys I know, and having to come up with new events, names, all the little things that go along with the event every week. He puts in a lot of effort, and sometimes he just likes to have a little fun. So I'm assuming this is in reference to Coachella, that musical gathering or whatever that happens every year, and so he's just having a fun play on words.
Yeah, first thing says, so have any of you guys actually been doing the event?
I'm boycotting it. I'm boycotting.
Why are you boycotting?
Okay, here we go. This is
story time with Old Bob.
And this is where I get into Word of Lake territory. Okay, but see, like, in fact, the event you see in this, which is shoot down 1 UAV. Okay, you basically have to A, have a person drop it, B, fight against 11 other guys trying to get that event done. And so basically it takes a lot of people over time just to get that one thing done, and then to earn the UAV detections. That's fine. You just pop out a UAV right before you go into brawl range, and you go get them.
There's more to that, Bob. Like, you need a mech that can actually shoot up. Sometimes there's a UAV above you, but you're torso mounted.
Exactly.
That's usually my problem. Most of my mechs are torso mounted weapons. I can never get the damn UAV.
But like another thing too is that it is dependent upon other people doing something for me to get that event done. Now a lot of people have an OCD. I have a little bit like OCD where I want, if I do an event, I want to get everything done.
Sure.
And so like doing that, it's like, oh my god, no! Someone else shoot it down for me. No, I'm so pissed. Now I got to wait like 5 or 6 games for me to go and get that one little chance to go beat 11 other people just to shoot that down, and then it creates like it creates frustration, creates a whole bunch of different things. Another thing, some of the events, Matt, I love you, man. Trust me, I do. But like play invasion mode or play like was it like incursion? I think it is.
There were some that would be like get 1 win on this map.
Yeah,
or
one win on this map.
Version.
Which doesn't come up ever. Ever.
So, just so you know, Matt is learning as far as that goes. Anything that requires a specific map, he understands now why that doesn't work. But yeah, I get it. I'm OCD as well. If I'm going to do a one of these events, I want to get every single freaking thing checked off. And so certain aspects of certain events can make that extremely frustrating, and I get that.
But
Well,
one
Bob
thing
has enough trouble trying to find the enemy mechs. Let alone
exactly,
the
I
UAV.
have a hard time shooting them. Come on. But one thing I do like, though, like I've been noticing, is the pictures that he's been using are phenomenal. I love what he does to all the different pictures that come out for all the different events that are out there. Beautiful looking, high res, really, really nice. And I have to say, 07 in that one, man, that is really, really nice. I like what he does with that.
Well, one
Also
of the cool things about, Ian, one of the things about Matt that a lot of people don't know is he is actually one of his skills is he was a graphic artist by trade. And so I definitely can appreciate his sensibility as far as like the screenshots he does and the artwork that he does. I do think I agree with you. He does a really good job with that kind of stuff and the presentation. He's got a great eye for that kind of stuff.
Oh, definitely. But that's like my only thing I have against like the events is when you
He
have
knows.
to depend on other people to pick modes or things to do for me to get that done.
You don't want to spend 12 hours grinding just to shoot one damn UAV down.
Yeah.
As far as the meat and potatoes go, simple, easy one to start with. 3 days premium time, very, very good. The rest, though, it's fairly simple, easy ones to get. 500 shot missile shot down with AMS, UAV detections, components destroyed. All of that doesn't take too long to earn.
No.
The rewards, unlike previous weeks, aren't colors. It's just C-bills and GXP for the most part, which isn't that enticing, but at least the event is simple. You don't have to grind like some of the previous week's events have been, get 5,000 match score, and it does give you some good rewards, but that's a lot of gameplay sometimes.
Yeah.
One thing I've really wanted, I love the events, but I've wanted for a long time, I just want straight out dailies every single day for the rest of MechWarrior Online. I want daily events. How do you guys feel about that? Are you no?
Yeah, we've actually discussed this quite a
we
bit
discussed
because we said like an issue has been when it has an event which is do 1,000 missile damage. That means for that weekend the learn boats come out in force. It's torture.
Absolutely.
So what we were saying is like other games, they can, if you wanted to do that kind of challenge, you would want it to be individualized. So not everyone is getting the do 1,000 missile damage. Everyone's getting do missile damage, do ballistic damage, shoot down missiles. They're getting it at random. And that way, you're not having the whole community suddenly turn into learn boats to also grind match score and things like that.
Yes, indeed.
It would be a huge improvement. It would be a great way to keep players playing, but as we at least acknowledged in the past, it will require a lot lots of resources to implement. It's
What
not
if
just
you
a
did an
simple-
event that where you need missiles, but also one that pays off for doing anti-missile?
Yeah, they often do put those two together, which I'm not sure about because in some ways you need the AMS side to actually feel like you're getting progress. But isn't that the same for the missile boat with the changes to AMS and quad AMS Corsair with its huge range, just deleting all missiles in sight? It doesn't feel that good if you're a missile boat and you can't get any.
What happens? Has he ever done an event? There's been so many events. I forget what's going on, but where it was missiles and say AC damage in the same one, so that not everybody's taking missiles.
Yeah, there will be events.
How does that play out?
There's plenty where you do, what's it last week? Wasn't it like energy, missile, and ballistic?
Right.
altogether?
Right. Yeah. So did you see an abundance of missiles then, or was it pretty well spread out?
I think it was well spread, wasn't it?
It was mostly well spread. The funny thing is, with those kind of events, you usually get people who are trying to do all the things in one mech, rather than take
small laser. Yeah.
I think we should have a machine gun only event.
Oh, that'd be cool.
I really love that.
10,000 rounds of ammo.
We've had discussions about that, like when they did the one of every ballistic weapon.
Yeah.
That was a crazy week.
But sometimes I like being forced to do things that I don't usually do. Yeah. And that's where, okay, I'll try that weapon system. I haven't used it in 2 years, but
well, it's kind of hard.
The joke was a lot of people had to if I do all the clan autocad, I get bills, but I'm spending millions just to equip the damn things.
Right.
Them.
Right.
Yeah, actually, it brings me to the point though. Like with my alt account, he's only inner sphere. He has a couple capture mechs, but some of the things were use a clan AC-20. I'm like, well, that's 900,000, man. That's hell expensive for me to do that. I can't do that.
Mhm.
But yeah, yeah.
Are we all space poor?
Oh, I'm on my alt account. I'm space poor. Like Obama, I'm okay.
I'm Stable Space Poor, but I still have those 60,000 MC.
I have about 600 million, so I'm
There you go.
Yeah,
Oh,
Biter's good.
Yeah.
Biter
Yeah.
could buy his own planet right now.
The last part of the event, sorry not sorry, is a little tricky for people to get. 500 match score or more gives you 2 ultra rare supply caches. These are ultra rares are indeed like they drop about the rate of 1 per 100. So these are quite neat. They usually only though give you like all the supply caches have 3 pieces of tat and 1 thing that they give you, and the ultra rares can give you like I think it's like 1,000 MC or 1,000,000 C bills or something like that. So
Was it one of them like
te-
one like 100 C bills? Like I think BrioS got that.
that is, I think, for just a rare supply
Oh, okay,
cache.
okay.
Yeah, for some reason, and for some reason, these MC and C bills, despite being the rarest of them all, are called commons, whereas everything else is uncommon. The rarity of the supply caches is, do not
Mhm.
trust the rarities listed in game. They're completely wrong.
Nice.
Okay. So is that the event? Pretty much, if you guys play it, you have when this podcast comes out, you have 2 days left to go play this. It comes out on Monday, so have fun with it, guys. It's very easy to go and do. Just play the game. You get stuff, and that's one
And
thing I
I
love.
just-
Yeah, go ahead.
For once, I highly recommend actually reading it on the homepage because both the names and descriptions are kind of pretty good.
You can always see the names in game as well.
Yeah.
With
True.
the name is shown in the drop down, but it's an okay event. I've usually drawn mostly by things like premium time, which it does offer, and things like Warhorns, MC, and the like. The GXP, I have like 5 million of it. I can add it to the huge stockpile, and C bills, as we just discussed, at least I don't have a problem with that. And it's an okay amount of C bills. It would have been much nicer to have C bills last week.
Hear that, Matt?
I think next we have the where's that Civil War sale, right?
Yep.
Okay. Interesting. In fact, Biter and I were talking about this beforehand, and it's good, but for the money wise, we were looking at it, and basically you don't get the premium time. I'm sorry, you get the premium time, but you don't get the extra rewards and stuff like that. The only thing you actually get is just the ultimate like rewards in case you buy the collector and the ultimate pack, which is the 5% XP boost and C-bill boost.
Okay,
right?
so let's just touch, give all the base grounds first, which is
Okay.
that 25% off all the packs for the Civil War mechs. So this is Uzil, Annihilator, Cougar, Mad Cat Mark II, Osiris, Nightstar, Arctic Wolf, and Nova Cat. For the most part, the only mechs that really are worth sort of mentioning of this list is, of course, Annihilator, Mad Cat Mark II, Arctic Wolf. I think the
Uzil.
others are, and the Uzil is a close second after
I
those,
like it.
I think.
But
Yeah.
Biter, your favorite mech, the Nightstar.
Poor Nightstar. These packs do have a unique distinction of indeed having these IS collector or ultimate rewards if you buy, both. Like if you get the Uzil ultimate pack and the Annihilator ultimate pack, you will get a cockpit items that boost C bills. But the thing is, even with 25% discount, at least in my opinion, usually at least the collector and ultimate packs are still not really worth it, particularly since you can get these mechs in game for C bills. So I'm always sort of like, you're spending a lot of real world money to get things that you could just get for C bills, so you can earn more C bills, but you already got the things you wanted, a lot of them. But yes, like, and we're talking like, to get these rewards, you need to spend $105 for the IS side. That's
Actually, both
that,
sides, but yeah.
either side is about, well, the Cougar, for example, is cheaper, so the clan side would actually be cheaper.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is what it is. I'm always I usually only ever get the standard packs, and I usually don't go into the mech packs. I only get the newest ones usually, but still, it's a sale. It is what it is.
But the extra paint jobs and
Yep.
stuff like that, you actually don't get like a normal pack, like for like $20 when the game first comes out, or like when a pack does come out, like say the Dervish should be out pretty soon, actually on the 18th. But you don't get the C bills to increase the mechs. You don't get a bunch of different other things that are out there. But I mean, you get those mechs, but you're spending, I mean, and a lot of money for what was it, 10% C bill boost and XP
Well, I think
boost?
this goes into somewhat stuff like kind of Josh has been talking about, that you want to make the packs more enticing.
Yeah.
So if you're getting any of these packs, it would be really nice if the mechs came out. You know, they gave you a bunch of C bills to help you equip them. If they gave you even like experience points, or skill points to spend on them as well. So you're not just getting vanilla mechs, you're getting a much more of a package. And yeah, like you said, paint schemes as well. That really would incentivize players to actually pick up these mechs, because it feels like a whole complete mech you're getting. Because each of these packs are quite a bit of money, and they can be earned free to play.
I'll put a word in there as far as basically increasing the value, whether that's C bills, GSP, all of the above.
It feels like you should really increase the value, at least so that you get much more out of the gate with these things. And yeah, 25% is nice, but it's at least, I mean, personally, at least a lot of people already own a whole bunch of mechs,
Sure.
and you really need something, really a nice cherry on top. And I mean, that's what I really like about the pre-order bonuses. But
Yeah.
these old mech packs, you don't get the pre-order bonuses. You don't get that cool Buccaneer skin or whatnot.
Well, so that we never talked about the mech packs issue. I saw what Lars felt about it because he was tweeting when we were
yeah.
doing the develop. How did you guys feel about the mech pack announcement?
Makes sense. If it's taking much longer, and it's not such a great return on investment, then as a company, it makes a lot of sense to pull back all the amount of mech packs. And Lars is not wrong. I think the game has already got plenty of mechs already. There's sort of a new mech fatigue for anyone who is actually buying new mechs over and over again. And a lot of the mechs, of course, are going to be crossing over in terms of what they use is in the game. Like next patch, we'll have the Dervish, which is another IS-55 missile mech. We already have the Gintaro, the Shadowhawk, the Griffin, and the Bushwhacker, all of which are already in the game, available for C bills, and could do missiles pretty good. And we don't know what the quirks are for the Dervish. What does it add to the game?
Yep. I was in favor of it. I mean, it's always hard when things change and you don't want to see, you can put it into context of, oh, the game's dying or whatever. That's why there's no more mech packs. But I feel the burnout because I am OCD as well. And so when I get a new mech pack, I gotta, like I go through and I'll level up a mech and I won't paint it until I get it fully skilled out, and then I paint it and I put cockpit. I have this like system that I go through with every new mech pack, and it is exhausting trying to keep up with each new mech pack and also play the mechs that you like. Like I'm always going back to my Warhammer or my Cyclops or whatever. So personally, I feel like we have so many mechs in the game, more than have been represented in most MechWarrior games. I would like to see the decision for new mechs to be very with purpose behind them. This is why we're doing this mech, and it's going to be popular. The community wants it, rather than just, okay, we got to do another one. What are we going to do?
Yeah. Yeah. Also, like I was just gonna say, like as a company aspect, like Biden was saying, it's a good decision because if you're not making quote money like off of it, and the return investment is not there, you want to put them out every couple months because you're obviously gonna take longer to get your money back. It's kind of like when you buy stuff for eBay. It's like, yeah, this would be really good, but it's gonna take like 6 years to sell. So you got to really think: am I going to spend the money for it? Am I going to wait, or what's going to happen? So that's kind of like the same like analogy for that, and that's fine. I don't mind actually because Lars. I mean, I'm the same boat as Lars. I'm like, damn, I got the Incubus, which I'll just put in the burner, but all the other mechs. So it's like, oh my god, another mech pack. Oh god, that's like 3 weeks of my time doing this, trying to get them done.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it will save PGI. I imagine, of course, you're doing all the modeling, all the texturing work and all that for the new mechs. And not only on top of that, they have a pipeline for bolt-ons, and all the new mechs, like a month afterwards, they have to have them updated for all the bolt-ons. And that's a lot of resources every single month. And because they're churning them out so quickly, that was kind of what I felt with the Dervish and somewhat even like the Rifleman 2C. There's already really good clan 65 tonners, and let's just add another one in.
Yeah.
And what's really drawing people back to these mechs, and with more resources, hopefully they can focus on
different other things that are out there.
other things and really improve the overall quality of the game, which will be much more appreciated. That was my criticism, at least, of the the feel of the overall podcast, though, was that if I'm just a quick play person and all I heard was, I'm not going to even get new mechs for the next 6 months, or thereabouts. A lot less mechs are coming out, and all they're working on is faction warfare. I'm not hearing much about we're going to improve quick play, where the majority of players actually are.
Yep, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, the main fear I've seen in the community are a couple people who are like, well, if they're not doing more mechs for MechWarrior Online, we're not gonna get any more mechs for MechWarrior 5, and that's kind of the only negative thing. Beyond that, I've only seen positive.
Oh yeah.
One thing I've said is, at least, it's sort of the ambiance of the game. At least if you hear there's always content coming out, like that's always been the thing. Even though people are saying MWO is dying, they've always been making new maps, new mechs, and just putting more and more stuff into the game. There's always been work being done, and always stuff to look forward to, and that feels great. But as I just said, as a quick play player, that update did not give me many interesting things to look forward to. It makes the game stagnant. When something is stagnant, it doesn't mean it's changing. It doesn't mean it's getting worse. It just doesn't feel so good if you're not going anywhere.
Yep, I totally understand. It's a perception issue. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there's Civil War sale. Different mech packs are on sale. Then also they have plus MC and C-Bill mechs are on sale for 50% off. So that's kind of nice. The Javelin and Roughneck. I love the Roughneck. It is such a good mech. Okay, I did my spiel for that now. But
I love it as well.
As long as we ignore the lore, it's a perfectly fine mech.
Yes, yeah. I mean, not lore-wise, it's a beautiful mech. It's a great
Throughout
brawler.
the community, it's begrudgingly loved, which is perfect.
So next, I think we got the C-Bills for mechs. Let me see if I can find that. Yeah, mech releases for C-Bills, the Hatamochi Chi and the Charger for C-Bills, and then the Warhammer 2C for MC. I actually, personally though, I was a total freakazoid about the Hatamochi. I was like, yeah, cool, this looks so awesome. Then I played it, I'm like, yeah, cool, I like the Charger much better. But that's just my own personal thing.
Yeah, I'm not super excited about. I don't know. I've never been really into the Charger or the Hatamochi. But at least they're in her sphere.
Yeah.
The Warhammer 2C for me has always been like, I just don't understand. Why do you change perfection?
Yeah. Usually, at least in our opinion, just to give you thoughts, Bombadil, it's like we usually don't care too much about the MC releases because it's so much later down the line from the mech packs actually released, and buying it for MC is very similar to just festing up real cash for the storefront to actually just get a whole standard pack. Buying it for MC is usually very inefficient, particularly since you're buying them for full price, so to speak. So I would say, at least the 80 tonner category is kind of a niche. If people are getting something, like, most people just take heavies, and if they're getting assaults, they go all the way up to 100 tons. But for what they are, I would say they are strong, solid contenders, and it's nice that they are actually available to the wider public because they are pretty solid mechs.
I was the lore freakazoid that tried the Charger with all small lasers, and I did pretty good with it. It was actually a lot of fun to go play.
I'm just gonna say, I recently got in the BattleTech video game, and it's a beautiful machine on there.
Oh, the Charger? Yeah, no, yeah. True. Okay, I think that's for mech releases for C-Bills and MC. They'll be coming out. Check them out, guys, if you guys can. Warhammer for MC and the Hatamochi and the Charger for C-Bills. Next up is the hot fix that happened. Okay, perfect. This helped out so much that, oh my god, I just cannot believe it was actually like implemented. I couldn't believe it was what was happened before, that we couldn't actually change things. So there was a hot fix on June 4th. Some things that did happen, players can now switch between factions, between the phases, instead of between conflicts and faction play. Because apparently, like right now, faction play is only going to be you play it, you pick whatever faction, and then you go and play it. Now you can switch between. I think last podcast we had where there was 22 people on the Davion side and 3 people on the Karita side.
Yep.
And so you couldn't really do much. You're just stuck in queue until some more people come. And during the whole time during podcast, we were going over the stats and like, okay, well, I guess I'm not playing faction play. And so now you can switch. So like when there's a overabundance of people on one side, they could jump to the other side. This is going to help out so much. I don't think it solves the problem of faction play, but it definitely does help though.
Yeah, it undoes the damage done from the last patch, which I understand the idea of trying to increase role playing and not just having people switch willy-nilly between sides, because from a role-playing perspective that doesn't make so much sense. But from a gameplay perspective, it's a lot nicer to actually play matches all day rather than sit in a queue all day, role-playing or not.
Oh yeah, definitely. I love role-playing, don't get me wrong, and I love lore, and I love what they did to the new story mode, and basically like of that. But not being able to actually have the ambiance of like, I am part of Lao, I'm part of Karita, this is me, type thing. But now it's like, oh, okay, so Clan Wolf versus Steiner.
Last week, a lot of people could, say, I am Davian and I'm stuck in a queue.
Yeah.
Hooray!
Yeah. That's. But at least they fix it, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. They're actually listening to the community to go ahead and do this kind of stuff, because that would have killed it. I now will try faction play, because now I can switch between different things and do whatever I do.
We're slowly undoing the damage of trying to make faction play into something that it really can't become.
Yeah.
So that's good. And the other thing, it's a minor quality of life improvement, which is just
don't you dare call this minor.
Huh?
What?
Don't you dare call this one minor. So the other changes is something I've complained after the initial PTS. I remember going on a 10-minute rant about this. Now, the taskbar item on Windows only flashes when you get into a match, rather than whenever the timer resets. This is a godsend.
Oh, I see, for like faction play. Yeah.
Yeah. Now you can just sit in queue, minimize the game, do something else, and you're going to be notified when the game starts.
Oh,
rather
okay.
Than every 2 minutes, it's going to start blinking, and you have to check, am I in a game? Timer just reset. Let's alt tab again. So this, I think this is something major. I love it.
Because I thought I was not sure which applied to, because if it's like quick play and you finally find a match, it does also do the flashing thing, which isn't as important as actually getting into the match itself.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, this is just lobby timer. Yeah, that is a huge improvement, because it's such a nuisance with that change that they implemented in the lovely faction warfare changes.
Yeah, no, I just appreciate being here. I appreciate you guys having me on. It's funny, as I'm sitting here listening to the whole podcast, the similarities between what Phil and I have been doing over the last 9 or 10 years is just it's cool. Everything you guys are doing, we've been doing too, and so I can appreciate the effort, the time, and the energy that goes into what you guys are doing. Really appreciate your podcasts. I listen to as many of them as I can, and I just I appreciate you guys very much. Thank you for having me on here. I hope my answers were okay. It's hard, not being able to be specific about things or whatever, but I really did answer the questions to the best of my ability and truthfully. So hopefully it was okay.
That's all we ask, man. We like to be honest on what's going on, so it's all good.
Yep.
But I love the obviously the franchise and this community, and it's always awesome to be a part of something.
And with that, thank you again, Bombadil, for being here for the First Circuit podcast. Thank you everyone for listening to the First Circuit podcast. This was episode 89. Our main guest today was Bombadil. If you want to say goodbye again, now's the time.
Bye, everybody.
Beyond that, we had the usual hosts of Bida.
And his boots were yellow.
That was a reference. Very good, man.
Okay. Old Bob, you got something special?
No, I gotta think of something to say, damn it.
And yeah, I'm also kind of late, so goodbye everyone and have a great week. See you next time.